I'll never forget the look on my sister's face the moment I destroyed what should have been the happiest day of her life. It wasn't the outright rage or shock that haunts me, it was that split second of complete understanding. That moment when Madeline realized exactly what I had been doing all along. "I've always known who you really are, Ellie," she said, her voice eerily calm despite the chaos erupting around us. "I just thought, for once, you might choose to be someone better." That's the thing about betrayal, it never feels like betrayal when you're convinced you're the one who's been wronged your entire life. Growing up as Madeline Foster's younger sister meant growing up invisible. At least, that's what I told myself. She was the high school valedictorian, the homecoming queen, the girl who got early admission to Cornell while I was still trying to figure out which colleges might accept my decidedly average grades. Our parents never said they had a favorite, but they didn't need to. The dozen framed photos of Madeline's achievements that lined our staircase said enough. When Madeline landed her dream job at a prestigious law firm in Boston after graduation, my parents threw her a party. When I finally figured out I wanted to work in event planning after 3 failed attempts at different majors, my dad patted my shoulder and said, "At least you found something, kiddo." I'd spent 26 years trying to step out of the Madeline-shaped shadow that followed me everywhere. So when I met Ryan at a networking event I was coordinating, something clicked. He was successful, charming, and most importantly, he chose me. Not my perfect sister, but me. 6 months into our relationship, Madeline announced her engagement to James, her college sweetheart. They'd been together for 7 years, and honestly, I was surprised it had taken them so long. I watched my parents practically float with excitement at her engagement dinner. "We're thinking a small ceremony next spring," Madeline said, her hand intertwined with James on the table. "Nothing too extravagant." My mother actually teared up. "Oh honey, whatever you want. This is going to be perfect." I felt Ryan squeeze my hand under the table, misreading my tension as happiness for my sister. I smiled back at him, an idea taking root. A terrible, perfect idea. "Hey," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. "Ryan and I have some news too." I felt Ryan stiffen beside me. We definitely did not have news. "We're engaged too." 4 sets of eyes stared at me in shock. Ryan's grip on my hand went slack. My mother recovered first. "What? Ellie, that's wonderful. When did this happen?" "Last weekend," I lied smoothly. "We wanted to wait for the right moment to tell everyone." I could feel Ryan's confusion radiating beside me, but to his credit, or perhaps his detriment, looking back, he played along. When my father asked to see the ring, I laughed it off. "Ryan's getting it sized." It was his grandmother's. Madeline studied me with those analytical eyes that had won her so many courtroom victories. "That's quite a coincidence," she said carefully. "Just good timing," I replied, holding her gaze. Later that night, after we'd left my parents' house, Ryan confronted me in the car. "What the hell was that about?" he asked, not angry yet, just bewildered. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry I put you on the spot. But don't you see? This is perfect timing. We've been talking about our future, and I just felt inspired. Don't you want to marry me?" It was manipulative, and I knew it. We'd vaguely discussed someday once or twice, nothing concrete. But Ryan was a good man, too good for what I was about to put him through. "Of course I do, Ellie. I just thought we'd make that decision together." I leaned over and kissed him. We just did. The following weekend, Ryan actually proposed. He bought a ring, not his grandmother's, but a simple solitaire that fit our budget. I wondered if he felt pressured, if somewhere in his mind he knew this wasn't right. But I didn't let myself dwell on it. I had a wedding to plan, or rather, a wedding to commandeer. When Madeline mentioned they'd found a beautiful venue for next May, I gushed about how perfect that timing would be for Ryan and me too. "Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a double wedding?" I suggested. "Think of how much money Mom and Dad would save." The hesitation on Madeline's face was clear, but before she could respond, my mother latched onto the idea. That could be wonderful. 2 beautiful brides, 2 handsome grooms, and you're right about the costs. Your father and I could give you both the wedding you deserve instead of stretching our budget across 2 events. Madeline tried to object in the gentle way she always did when she disagreed with someone. I don't know. James and I were hoping for something intimate. It can still be intimate with both couples, I insisted. Plus, we can help each other plan. You're so busy with work, Maddie. Wouldn't it be nice to have me handling some of the details? That was my angle, positioning myself as helpful, considerate. The truth was, I wanted control. If I couldn't have my own spotlight, I'd share hers. And gradually shift it my way. James looked uncomfortable but remained silent. Ryan seemed genuinely enthusiastic. He got along well with Madeline and James, and the idea of sharing costs appealed to his practical nature. My parents were fully on board, already calculating the savings. Madeline eventually conceded, though I caught the concerned glance she exchanged with James. If that's what everyone wants, she said. I smiled triumphantly. Step 1 complete. The next few months became a masterclass in subtle sabotage and manipulation. I'd never applied myself so thoroughly to anything in my life. When Madeline selected a classic A-line dress that perfectly suited her tall, slender frame, I found a more elaborate gown from the same designer, with a longer train and more intricate beadwork. When she chose soft pink and white for her flowers, I suggested we complement each other with my choices of deep burgundy and cream, which would inevitably stand out more dramatically in photos. Scheduled our cake tasting for a day when Madeline had an important deposition, assuring her I'd honor her preferences. Instead, I selected a 5-tier creation that dwarfed the elegant 3-tier design she'd shown me. I thought we agreed on something simpler, she said when she saw the contract. The baker said this would work better for the number of guests, I lied. And it was only a little more expensive. The guest list was another battlefield. Madeline and James wanted around 75 people, close friends and family. Ryan and I pushed for 150, inviting distant relatives, colleagues, even my old college roommates I barely spoke to anymore. The venue can accommodate it, I insisted. And think how hurt Aunt Carol would be if she wasn't invited. Aunt Carol, who hadn't seen either of us in 5 years. My parents, caught in the middle, tried to mediate. Girls, this is supposed to be a happy time, my mother would say whenever tensions rose. My father mostly stayed out of it, his usual strategy when faced with conflict. Ryan, to my growing irritation, started asking questions. Don't you think Madeline seemed upset about the change in photographers? He asked one night after I'd cancelled her documentary-style photographer in favor of a more fashion-oriented one. She'll love the photos, I assured him. Her guy was going to take boring, traditional shots. This will be much more magazine-worthy. He frowned. But it's her wedding too, Ellie. Shouldn't these decisions be made together? I kissed him to end the conversation. Trust me, I know my sister. The truth was, I did know my sister. I knew exactly what mattered to her, which made it all too easy to systematically dismantle her vision piece by piece. 3 months before the wedding, we had a joint bridal shower. My mother and her friends had organized it at an upscale restaurant, with personalized decorations for both of us. The room was divided, Madeline's side with her tasteful soft colors, mine with the bolder palette I'd chosen. Madeline arrived late, apologizing profusely. An emergency at work had kept her. I'd been the center of attention for the first 45 minutes, opening gifts and sharing wedding details with the guests. We've actually changed the seating arrangement, I announced to a group of aunts. The head table will now be on the raised platform instead of in the center of the room. It'll be more dramatic for the entrances. That's news to me, Madeline said, appearing at my elbow with a fixed smile. Can we talk for a minute, Ellie? She pulled me into the restaurant's empty hallway, her lawyer composure cracking slightly. What are you doing? We agreed on the center arrangement weeks ago. James' grandmother can't manage steps, remember? I blinked innocently. Oh. I completely forgot about that. I'll call the venue tomorrow. Like you forgot about the photographer? And the cake? And the fact that James is allergic to the centerpiece flowers you ordered? I felt my face flush. Those were honest mistakes. Were they? Madeline's eyes narrowed. Because it feels like you're systematically changing everything we decided on. That's ridiculous, I scoffed. I'm just trying to make this wedding special. For whom, Ellie? Because it's starting to feel like this isn't about either of us getting married, it's about you competing with me. Again. Her words hit uncomfortably close to home, but I was committed to my denial. I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't like my ideas, just say so. I have been saying so. You just aren't listening. Her voice rose slightly, and she caught herself, taking a deep breath. Look, I love you. You're my sister. But this behavior, it needs to stop. Maybe you should have your own wedding then, I snapped, the facade cracking. Since mine is so awful. Madeline stared at me for a long moment. Is that what you want? To split the weddings? The prospect of losing my leverage terrified me. No. Mom and Dad can't afford 2 weddings, you know that. I'm just saying, if you can't compromise, compromise? Ellie, I've done nothing but compromise. This was supposed to be equal, but you've taken over everything. A throat cleared behind us. Ryan stood there, his expression troubled. Everything okay? Fine, I said quickly. Just sister stuff. Madeline looked between Ryan and me, then shook her head slightly. We should get back to our guests. As she walked away, Ryan touched my arm. Ellie, maybe we should reconsider some of the changes. If Madeline and James aren't comfortable, they're fine, I insisted. Madeline always gets her way. For once, this is something we're sharing. The look Ryan gave me made my stomach twist. It was the first time I'd seen Dad in his eyes, not just about the wedding, but about me. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything imploded. We're at the final venue walkthrough, Madeline, James, Ryan, me, my parents, and the wedding coordinator. The coordinator was reviewing the schedule I'd revised, which now included a solo song I would perform during the reception. Wait, what song? Madeline interrupted. The way you look tonight, I said casually. I thought it would be a nice personal touch. But you added this without discussing it with anyone, Madeline said. We already have the band's set list finalized. It's just one song, Maddie. Don't be so controlling. James, usually quiet during these exchanges, spoke up. It's not about the song, Ellie. It's about the pattern. You've changed the flowers, the cake, the photographer, the seating, all without consulting us. I'm handling the details so Madeline doesn't have to worry about them, I said defensively. She's so busy with work. That's not true, and you know it, Madeline said quietly. You've deliberately changed things I specifically wanted. My mother tried to intervene. Girls, please, let's focus on making this a wonderful day for everyone. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, I insisted. Ryan had been unusually silent throughout the walkthrough. Now he stepped forward. Ellie, can I talk to you? Alone? My heart sank. His tone wasn't promising. We stepped out onto the venue's terrace while the others continued the tour inside. The spring air was cool, matching the atmosphere between us. What's going on? I asked, trying to sound innocent. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd come to recognize as his tell when he was deeply uncomfortable. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. I nodded, throat suddenly dry. Did you orchestrate this whole thing, our engagement, the double wedding, just to compete with your sister? The direct question stunned me. I'd expected him to question the wedding details, not my fundamental motivation. Of course not, I said automatically. I love you. I want to marry you. I want to believe that, he said. But I've been watching how you've handled this wedding, how you interact with Madeline. It's like you're not planning a celebration of our relationship, you're planning a competition. That's not fair, I protested. I'm just trying to make our day special. Our day? Or your day? Ryan's voice was sad rather than angry. Because lately it feels like this wedding is more about upstaging Madeline than starting our life together. The truth hovered between us, ugly and unavoidable. I could have confessed then, could have admitted my insecurities and maybe salvaged something. Instead, I doubled down. You don't understand what it's like living in her shadow, I said bitterly. My whole life, she's been the perfect one. The smart one. The successful one. For once, I wanted something that was as good as what she has, or better. Ryan's expression shifted from concern to disappointment. So you're admitting this was about competing with her? Not about us? No. It's both. I love you, Ryan. I do. He sighed heavily. I think you believe that. But Ellie, you proposed to me, without actually proposing, the same night your sister announced her engagement. You pushed for a double wedding so you could systematically take over. You've ignored her wishes, my concerns, everyone's input. Panic rose in my chest. I can change. We can fix this. That's just it, I'm not sure what we'd be fixing. Our relationship? Or your need to outshine your sister? I reached for his hand, but he gently pulled away. I can't marry you like this, Ellie. Not when I'm not sure if you love me or just the idea of being a bride alongside Madeline. The world seemed to stop. What are you saying? I'm saying I need time to think. And you need to be honest with yourself about what you really want. He walked back inside, leaving me alone on the terrace with nothing but the weight of my own machinations. The next week passed in a blur of panic and desperate attempts to salvage both my relationship and the wedding. Ryan had moved to his friend's couch, answering my calls but remaining firm about needing space. My parents were bewildered, caught between supporting me and acknowledging the problems I'd created. Madeline, surprisingly, was the one who came to my apartment 3 days after the venue walkthrough. I was a mess, unwashed hair, takeout containers littering my coffee table, wedding magazines torn apart in a fit of frustration. Can I come in? She asked when I opened the door. I nodded mutely, embarrassed by both my appearance and my behavior. She sat on my couch, moving aside a pile of tissues. Mom told me Ryan's staying with a friend. He says he needs time, I said, voice raw from crying. He thinks I don't really love him. Madeline was quiet for a moment. Then, do you? Love him, I mean. Not the idea of getting married, not the chance to have a wedding alongside mine, but him, specifically. The question forced me to confront something I'd been avoiding. I sank into the armchair across from her. I don't know anymore, I admitted. I think I do. But everything's so tangled up with competing with me, she finished gently. I couldn't meet her eyes. I've spent my whole life feeling second best, Madeline. You don't know what that's like. Don't I? She asked, surprising me. You think I don't compare myself to you? I laughed bitterly. Right. What could the golden child possibly envy about me? Your ease with people. Your creativity. The way you can walk into a room and make everyone feel comfortable instantly. She leaned forward. Do you know how many hours I've spent preparing for small talk at work events? How much I practiced my toast for your birthday last year? That stuff comes naturally to you. I stared at her, genuinely shocked. But you're the successful one. The smart one. Mom and Dad's pride and joy. I'm the one who followed the most obvious path, she corrected. Get good grades, go to a good school, get a respectable job. You've always been braver, trying different things, changing direction when something didn't fit. Failed attempts, I muttered. Exploration, she countered. I've been too afraid to ever stray from the safe route. We sat in silence for a moment, 26 years of misunderstanding hanging between us. I've been awful, I finally said. To you, to James, to Ryan, to everyone. Yes, she agreed, but without malice. But you can still fix some of it. How? Ryan's practically called off the wedding. I've ruined all your plans. Mom and Dad have already paid deposits we can't get back. Madeline took a deep breath. I have a proposal. A real one, not a manipulative one. The slight edge in her voice let me know she wasn't fully past my behavior, despite this olive branch. What's that? We separate the weddings. James and I will keep the date we planned. You postpone whether with Ryan if you work things out, or... She hesitated, or you forfeit the deposits if you need to cancel. But either way, we stop this charade of a double wedding. It was the obvious solution, the one that should have been implemented months ago. But something still niggled at me. Mom and Dad can't afford, I'll cover the extra costs, Madeline said firmly. I've been saving. This matters to me, Ellie. A wedding that actually reflects what James and I want. The generosity of her offer, after everything I'd done, made me feel even worse. I can't let you do that. You don't have a choice, she said, a hint of her courtroom authority showing. This is happening. The only question is whether you'll accept it gracefully or make things even worse. Put that way, I had no argument. Okay, I whispered. You're right. She stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think Ryan really loves you. But you need to figure out if you're marrying him for the right reasons. After she left, I sat alone in my apartment for hours, truly examining my motives for the first time. The conclusion wasn't flattering. I called Ryan that night and asked if we could talk in person. He agreed to meet me at a coffee shop the next day, neutral territory. He looked tired when he arrived, as though he hadn't been sleeping well either. That gave me a flicker of hope. Thank you for meeting me, I said as he sat down. Of course, he replied, his tone careful. How are you doing? Terrible, I admitted. But clear-headed for the first time in, maybe ever. I told him about Madeline's visit, her proposal to separate the weddings. Then I took a deep breath and did the hardest thing I've ever done. I told the complete truth. You were right. About everything. I pushed for our engagement because I was jealous of Madeline. I manipulated the double wedding situation to try to outshine her. I put my insecurities and competitiveness ahead of what should have been the most important relationship in my life, ours. Ryan listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. I do love you, I continued. But you deserve someone who's marrying you because you're the person they want to spend their life with, not as part of some twisted sibling rivalry. My voice broke. So I understand if you want to call everything off. He was quiet for a long moment, turning his coffee cup in circles. That's the most honest you've been since the night Madeline announced her engagement. I nodded miserably. I appreciate that, he said. And I think we need to postpone the wedding regardless. We need time to figure out if what we have is real or if it was just convenient timing. It wasn't a complete rejection, which was more than I deserved. I understand. But Ellie, he added, his voice softening slightly, the fact that you can recognize all this, that you're willing to admit it, that tells me there's hope for us. If you want to do the work. I do, I said, the words carrying a different weight than they would have at a rushed altar. Madeline and James' wedding went ahead as planned. It was beautiful, exactly what they had originally envisioned before I interfered. Simple, elegant, deeply personal. I attended as a guest, not a bridesmaid. Madeline had gently suggested that might be easier for everyone, and she was right. Watching her walk down the aisle, seeing the love between her and James, I felt something shift within me. For the first time, I could appreciate my sister's happiness without feeling it diminished my own. It was a small step, but an important one. Ryan came as my date. We were taking things slowly, rebuilding on a foundation of honesty rather than competition. I'd started therapy to work through my insecurities and the roots of my competitive nature with Madeline. After the ceremony, during the reception, Madeline found me by the bar. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" I asked. "I nearly ruined everything. For letting this day be what it was meant to be." She squeezed my hand. "And for working on yourself. I've noticed." Coming from Madeline, that acknowledgement meant more than she knew. Later, as Ryan and I swayed on the dance floor, he whispered in my ear, "Someday, when we're ready, we'll have our own day. No comparisons needed." "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. The road to repairing the damage I'd done was long. Some relationships, like with James' parents, might never fully recover. My own parents were still working through their confusion and disappointment in my behavior, but standing there, watching my sister in her moment of joy, a joy I hadn't sabotaged, I understood something fundamental. The shadow I'd felt all my life hadn't been cast by Madeline. It had been cast by me, by my refusal to find my own light rather than trying to dim hers. As if reading my thoughts, Ryan said, "You know, you shine plenty bright all on your own, Ellie. When you're not trying so hard to outshine everyone else." I rested my head on his shoulder, letting his words sink in. Maybe, just maybe, there was room in this family for two successful sisters, different, but equally valuable. And maybe one day, I'd fully believe it. The wedding that never happened taught me more than the one that might someday occur. It showed me the ugliest parts of myself, and in doing so, gave me the chance to finally address them. It cost me time, money, and nearly the person I loved, but it may have saved me from a lifetime of bitter competition and self-sabotage. I'll never forget the look on Madeline's face when I told her I was withdrawing from our double wedding. Not the anger or disappointment I expected, but relief mixed with a cautious hope. Hope that maybe, finally, her little sister was growing up and I am. One hard truth at a time. Hey listeners, thanks for tuning into another episode of Sweet Revenge. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of your own experiences with sibling rivalry, family dynamics, or relationship wake-up calls, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Have you ever caught yourself competing when you should have been celebrating? Or realized you were making a major life decision for the wrong reasons? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more authentic stories of personal transformation and life-changing realizations. Until next time, remember that sometimes our biggest growth comes from our most uncomfortable truths.